Let me know once we look at all the applicants and make sure that there's a conflict. Just to get that everybody right. I'm sorry. The 111, 106, but they would do themselves. Okay. That's their leads. Are both parties ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor. Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Gabriel Liu, and alongside my co-counsel.
Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Caitlin Fox.
We represent the plaintiff, Marie Barnes, in today's proceedings. We do have a notice of appearance for Your Honor and members of the jury. If my co-counsel may approach and
Please, thank you.
Your Honor, before she does, you have a copy of the case file. Would you like one? Wonderful.
Good morning. Counsel, which is the number?
101.
Good morning, Your Honor. We are Team 106. My name is Paola Morales, and I am with my co-counsel, Mr. Taylor Thompson. We represent the defendant in today's case, Klein High School. We do have several preliminary matters to cover.
If you have any housekeeping matters you might start with?
Yes, Your Honor. First and foremost, Your Honor, we do anticipate that there will be a number of objections in today's proceedings. For the purposes of today's trial, may we constructively approach the bench, but remain in our position so that this particular jury has the benefit of their comment. Yes, Your Honor. Next, Your Honor, we do want to bring the court's attention to the fact that there are a number of exhibits that have already been entered into evidence pursuant to the pretrial order. Those exhibits are Exhibit 5, which is the medical record of Marie Barnes, as well as Exhibit 10, which is the football one-on-one document. In addition, Your Honor, we had a successful meeting confer with opposing counsel and have agreed to the admissibility of a number of additional exhibits, if you'd like to hear those.
Yes, Your Honor.
Those exhibits are Exhibit 1, which is the photograph of Marie Barnes. Exhibit 2, which is the waiver to play high school football signed by Marie. Exhibit 3, which is the diagram of the quarterback sneak push play. Exhibit 7, which is the model spine listed right here. Exhibit 9, which is the video of the quarterback sneak push play being run. Actually, that's it right there. In addition, Your Honor, we intend to use Exhibit 1 during opening statements, so we want to report on notice of that.
Any objections from the counsel? No objection, Your Honor.
Next, Your Honor, we do intend to elicit expert testimony throughout today's proceedings. Would Your Honor prefer a formal tender outside of the ears of the jury?
Sure.
Yes, sir. And finally, Your Honor, we would like to bring the court's attention to the fact that today's proceeding is a bifurcated trial. The medical record of Marie Barnes does indicate some of the extent of his injuries, specifically his paralysis and his quadriplegic status. So we do intend on eliciting that information as it's already in the record, but we will not be going any further into the extent of his injuries to the current day.
Okay, so you're not getting no damages towards.
Yes, Your Honor. We do intend to show harm, as that is one of the elements of our claim of negligence today, but we will not be going into the extent of the damages beyond what's already in evidence.
That's correct.
And with that, Your Honor, we have no further pretrial matters, and we are ready to move on to our one substantive motion.
All right,
Yes, Your Honor. We would like to confirm that the federal rules of evidence and federal rules of civil procedure will govern in today's case.
That's correct.
In understanding that, or would you prefer that we obtain permission to approach the witness or approach when necessary?
As once, and that we're about to love, and just so freely, this is it.
The defense has no further preliminary matters at this time, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor. Good morning. We have brought a claim of negligence today on behalf of the plaintiff, Rachel Lawrence, against the defendant, Thomas Klein High School. And we've actually had a very productive pre-trial conference with opposing counsel where we have stipulated to our motion, which is to exclude any reference to the 2025 NFL vote to ban the quarterback sneak push from today's proceedings.
Any reference to the 2025, say it again?
The 2025 NFL vote to ban the quarterback sneak push, Your Honor.
That's correct, Your Honor. As far as defense motion in limine, we did have a successful pre-trial conference, and we stipulated that there was an email sent by parents to the athletic director of Klein High School discussing Coach Powell's conduct at a different practice altogether, and we stipulated that no discussion of that email or the email itself will be talked about in this proceeding.
All right.
Yes, Your Honor, that's Exhibit 4.
That was easy. All right, any other pretrial matters, and then we'll.
Nothing from the defense.
All right, are you ready to see the proceedings?
Yes, Your Honor.
Proceeding ready.
May it please the court. Counsel, members of the jury. A coach's decision to do a dangerous play destroyed a child's life. Early fall 2024. And the ninth graders on the freshman football team at Thomas R. Klein High School are at practice, working hard, trying to turn things around after they had 2 losing seasons back to back. They're practicing a brand new play, one inspired by the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles, where the quarterback takes the ball and is pushed from behind by his teammates up and over the offensive players in front of him. The ninth grade quarterback is trying to get this play right. He keeps messing it up. He knows that when the Eagles run this play, their quarterback does it in an upright position as he's pushed up and over. His coach tells him that when he runs the play, he needs to run it in a different position entirely. Instead of going up and over, his coach tells him that he needs to be face down, body parallel to the ground, his chin tucked, so that he can be pushed head first towards a wall of other players, so that he can go down and under. The ninth grade quarterback is trying to get this play right. He's tired, he's sweating, he's frustrated. After he messes that play up again, he sees his coach coming at him. That coach grabs him by the helmet, shoves his face towards the ground, and tells him, "You need to be parallel to the ground like a human battering ram. Don't make me say it again." Playing through the pain, not wanting to lose his starting spot, that quarterback does exactly as he's told. The next time he lines up for a play with his offensive line in front of him and his teammates behind him ready to push, that quarterback gets into the position his coach told him to. He gets face down with his body parallel to the ground and his chin tucked so that he can go down and under the other players as he's pushed head first. That's not what happened. That quarterback, when he was in that position, had his head run into the player in front of him. And then player after player pile onto the quarterback's back. Every other player got up in that play, but not the quarterback. That quarterback was 14-year-old Marik Barnes. His coach's dangerous decision left him paralyzed. That's why we're here today. The plaintiff and his parents have brought a claim of negligence against the defendants, Thomas R. Klein High School. A claim of negligence carries with it 4 elements that we have to prove to you here today by a preponderance of the evidence. Those elements are that the high school had a duty to protect their 9th grade players, that they breached that duty, that because they breached that duty, they foreseeably caused Marik's injury, which was his paralysis. We have to prove that to you by a preponderance of the evidence, which just means more likely than not. Better visualize that standard, take an evenly balanced scale. When the evidence tips that scale ever so slightly in Marik's favor, you must find the defendants liable. That's what the evidence will show you today. Let's talk about how. As we move through this proceeding, we're going to ask you to pay attention to 2 important things. The pressure that this coach was under to win, the pressure that this coach's dangerous decision put onto Marik's neck and back. We start with the pressure that this coach was under to win. We're going to call our first witness to this stand here today to tell you about how that team was coming off of back-to-back losing seasons. They needed a winning season to keep their jobs. That's when the head coach had an idea. Run that Eagles quarterback push play. The only problem is that they'd have to modify. They knew that Marik was too small to run that play like other pro quarterbacks, college quarterbacks, and high school quarterbacks. It's for that reason that this coach modified this play into something different entirely. Instead of having his quarterback run that play going up and over the offensive lineman in front of him, that coach wanted his player to run head first so that he could go down and under the players in front of him, the wall of players. That brings us to how this coach's dangerous decision put pressure onto Marik's neck and back. And we all agree that football is a dangerous sport, one where injuries can happen. Members of the jury, we're going to call our second witness to the stand today, who's an expert, who will testify that the way this coach modified this play created an unreasonable risk of harm. Specifically, this expert's going to testify that there was pressure on Marik's spine from all angles. From behind, as his teammates pushed him forward. From the front, as that wall of players acted as a pressure against him. From on top, as player after player piled onto Marik's spine. We're going to hear that that's pressure was too much for Marik's spine to handle. It led to his spine shattering. It led to paralysis from the neck down. Here in a moment, the defense is going to stand before you, and they're going to try to tell you that this play was safe. That it was run in 2 out of 50 states at the high school level across this country. And no quarterback had gotten hurt running a play like this before. Members of the jury, we ask you to pay attention to how this coach modified this play from how any other team was running. This coach didn't have his player run up and over the offensive line. He had his player run head first. On top of that, the defense is going to stand before you and try to tell you that Marie, a 14-year-old child, assumed the risk of being paralyzed because he signed a waiver to play high school football. Members of the jury, you're going to see that waiver today. You're going to see that it does identify paralysis as an injury that can happen in rare cases. You're also going to see that on that very same form, it says that the coaches at Thomas R. Klein will take all reasonable precautions to keep their ninth graders safe. At the end of this trial, you'll agree that those reasonable precautions were not taken. A coach's decision to do a dangerous play destroyed a child's life. It's for that reason that at the end of this trial, my co-counsel, Ms. Fox, is going to come before you, ask you to find the only verdict consistent with the facts, the law, your own common sense. One finding the defendant liable.
Thank you, counsel. Can I have the room?
Yes, Your Honor. This was a tragic accident. When we hear about accidents like this, our gut reaction is when someone causes pain to somebody else, whoever causes that pain, we want to hold accountable. That's right. It's human. The truth is that sometimes accident is just an accident. Sometimes there is no one to blame. Football's a dangerous game. It's violent. It's a game that involves every play asserting your will over somebody else, throwing people to the ground. It's violent. But it's also love. Not just by adults like you and me, love by kids like Marie. Kids that get to sit at home on Sundays and watch their favorite team and say, I want to be just like them. Marie was no exception. But he didn't want to be just like anyone on his favorite team, the Philadelphia Eagles. He wanted to be like his favorite player. He wanted to be the quarterback. Despite being only 5'2", 109 pounds, Marie had a dream to be the quarterback for his team. So he worked hard. He was getting faster, stronger. He was throwing farther. Every practice along the way, gaining his teammates' respect, his coaches' respect, until one day after practice, his coaches gathered the team together and they announced that the new starting quarterback for the Klein freshman team, Marie. The only ones on that field more excited than Marie were his teammates, his coaches, celebrating with him. And it only got better, because a couple weeks later, he learned that not only was he the quarterback for his team, he was going to get to run his city's play. The tush push, the brotherly shove, the play that the Philadelphia Eagles are known for. A 14-year-old football player in Philly gets to run his city's play. When they put it in practice, they run it play after play after play, and each time Marie gets the yards he needs. His teammates surrounding him, patting him on the back, lifting him up. He's grinning from ear to ear. They're celebrating with him. His teammates are calling him Mini Hurts. Marie is living his dream. Until September 9th. There was an accident. While running the same play, the exact same way they had run it before. The practice before, the play that brought so much celebration and elation and joy, this time brought tragedy. Marie ran that play same way that nothing changed. Nothing changed. But this time, he didn't get up. He took an hit. He was left paralyzed. Football is dangerous. I understand that. It's a sport that has risks. It's a sport that is violent. So why do players play such a dangerous game? Why do parents allow players, their kids, to play such a dangerous game? Because of what the game gives us. Because of what it gives kids. Like Marik and his teammates. A team. Friends. Camaraderie. Toughness. Discipline. Perseverance. Family. We accept the risks associated with a dangerous game because of what the game gives in return. We understand that there's risks associated with that game, but we just don't talk about it very often. But one time that we do talk about it, one time that we are sure to talk about the risks that are associated with this game, is before those players ever step on. Those players sign a waiver that lays out the risks that are associated with the dangerous game, a waiver that you're going to see today. A waiver that outlines how dangerous the game is. That you can sprain an ankle, you can get a concussion, and yes, you could even be paralyzed. Today you're going to see the waiver that was signed by Marie, was signed by his mother, so that her child could play the game that he loved to get what the game gives us in return. Now, in addition to that waiver, you're going to hear testimony today. You're going to hear from coaches that were at Klein High School when this play was run. One coach that the plaintiff is going to bring is Coach Clooney. We anticipate that Coach Clooney is going to tell you that this play was too dangerous for high school athletes. That he told Coach Powell, the head coach, that it was too dangerous for these kids to run, but he allowed it to be run anyway. You're going to hear Coach Clooney today desperately wanted the head coaching position at Klein High School, but was passed over by Coach Powell. Who you're also going to hear from, the head coach for the Klein freshman team. Coach Powell is going to tell you that they discussed the play together. That they both decided that it was worth a shot for their team. The coaches today that you hear from, that they're going to disagree about a lot of things. But one thing that both coaches are going to tell you is that football is dangerous. That injuries like this can happen during any game, during any practice, during any play, at any time. You're also going to hear from experts today. From doctors. Plaintiffs are going to bring Dr. Kensington Cotter, who's a sports medicine physician. And we anticipate that Dr. Cotter is going to tell you that this play was dangerous. That the high school athletes are too underdeveloped to run a play that's this violence, that injury was inevitable for a play like this. You're also going to hear from Dr. Adams, who's a neurosurgeon, who does thousands of surgeries on spines. Dr. Adams is going to tell you that this play is actually safer than other plays, because the forces that are involved are so much less, because the players aren't as strong, they're not as fast, that it's one of the safest plays you can run in the sport. The experts, in this case, they're going to disagree about a lot of things, but what both experts will tell you is that in the hundreds of times this play has been run at the NFL level, at the college level, at any level, there's never been a quarterback injured on this play, let alone an injury. It's terrible, is what we expect. Now, the plaintiffs in this case just told you that they hold the burden of proving by a preponderance of the evidence that Klein High School was negligent, which means that they have to show you that the Klein coaches made decisions that reasonable coaches wouldn't have. As defense, we're bringing what's known as an affirmative defense, which means that we have to prove to you by a preponderance of the evidence that Maurice and his mother understood the risks associated with the game, and they played the game. You're going to see the waiver that shows those risks. You're going to see the signatures for Maurice. What you're also going to see, what you're going to hear, that the play was illegal. You're going to hear that Klein High School and their coaches had seen the play run hundreds of times at every level and had never seen a quarterback. At the end of this trial, you're going to know that there's no way that these coaches, that this school could have possibly foreseen such a tragic accident. Because sometimes an accident is just an accident. Sometimes there is no way. So at the end of this trial, my co-counsel, Ms. Morales, is going to get up here and she's going to ask you to think about the things that you've heard. She's going to ask you to think about the evidence. She's going to ask you to find Klein High School not negligent. Because this was an accident. No one knew.
Are you ready to call your first witness?
Your Honor, at this time, the plaintiff calls Al Cooley to the stand. Yes, Your Honor. May I proceed?
You may.
Good morning. Please introduce yourself to the members of the jury.
Hi, my name is Al Clooney.
Mrs. Clooney, what do you do for a living?
Currently, I'm the head coach for the junior varsity football team at Stetson High School, where I also teach physics.
How are you connected to this case?
Before I started working at Jules Epstein, I worked at Thomas R. Klein High School. I was the offensive coordinator for the freshman football team, and I also taught physics there.
Mrs. Clooney, for those of us that don't know, what is an offensive coordinator?
Essentially, every football team has an offense and a defense, and each side has a coordinator. I was the offensive coordinator. I helped design the play for the offense and train the players who were on the offense.
Coach, you mentioned that you trained the players. Did you ever train Maurice Barnes?
I did. He was the head quarterback for our freshman football team.
Would you recognize a photo of Maurice if I showed it to you?
I would, yes.
On our permission to approach the witnesses, what's already in evidence is Exhibit 1.
You may.
Permission to publish by witness that as well.
Sorry. No objection to your order.
Would you like a courtesy copy?
Thank you. Thank you.
Coach, can you tell us a little bit about who Maurice is?
Sure. He was a freshman, little guy, but he was a hard worker, funny, respectful, great player.
Coach, I want to talk about the play that Maurice got injured while running. Do you know what play that was?
Yes, it was the team pass.
Was it the quarterback sneak push?
Push, yes.
Coach, did you have that play in your playbook during your time at Thomas R. Klein?
Yes, we did. The last season that I was there, that summer, we introduced him.
Would you recognize that play if I showed it to you?
I would.
Before we get into that play, I'm going to want to break that down a little bit more in detail. Would it assist your testimony to step down and interact with a larger version of that play?
Sure.
Our permission for the witness to step down and interact with a larger version of what's already in evidence, that being Exhibit 3.
Yep, that's fine.
May I position myself down?
You may.
You all right, see that?
Yes. Perfect. Thank you.
All right, coach, we're going to have you stand right here, and we're just going to kind of walk through this play together. I'm just going to stand over here so I'm not blocking anyone. Before we get into the specifics of this play, I want to start with football in general. What's the goal of football?
Score points.
And how do you do that?
Well, there's a couple of ways. You could kick a field goal, but most often the way is to score a touchdown.
I see on this board it says quarterback sneak push. What's the purpose of a play like this?
So as part of football, there are instances where essentially every time you have a drive, you want to gain 10 yards. And in short yardage situations where you only have a couple of yards to get to that 10-yard mark, we created this sneak push that was based off of the NFL play, where essentially you just have the quarterback pushed by offensive players to gain that yardage instead of throwing.
Coach, you mentioned that this play is based off of an NFL play. Where did you originally see this play run?
Well, actually, the Philadelphia Eagles, they made it popular. They started running it a couple of years ago, and it's become famous in the NFL.
All right, Coach, I want to go ahead and break down what we're seeing on this board in more detail. I see some triangles towards the top. What are those?
So the triangles represent the defense, where how we expect the defense to be positioned when we run this play.
And what about those circles?
So this is the offense. This is, as the offensive coordinator, these are the plays that I'm working on.
And then I see a square towards the middle as well. What is that?
That's center.
What's a center?
Well, the center is the player who starts with the ball. The quarterback will then either make a sound or somehow gesture towards the center. Give them the ball, and at that point the play starts.
Now, you mentioned the quarterback. Could you show us where the quarterback is on this play?
Sure. Right here.
And there's 3 circles behind the quarterback. What is that?
So these are 3 offensive players who, during the sneak push, will push the quarterback forward to cross the line of scrimmage.
Now, Coach, you mentioned a moment ago that you first saw this play with the Eagles. When the Eagles run this play, how is their quarterback positioned?
So the quarterback starts right here in the center, and essentially the job of the offense, these 3 offensive players, is to push the quarterback, but up and over the other players. That's how they gain the yardage.
Well, how did Thomas R. Klein run this play?
Differently. The way that we did it at the time was we wanted our quarterback to have his face towards the ground, chin tucked, body parallel to the ground, and then they would be pushed forward by his offensive players.
Coach, I want to talk more about when that play was put in your playbook. Do you recall when that was?
Yes, me and Coach Powell, we went out for drinks in July of 2024. At that time, Coach Powell brought up the sneak push and said that we should inquire.
And how did you respond when Coach Powell brought that up?
I wasn't that big of a fan. In the NFL, there had been talks about whether or not the play was really safe. People had gotten injured before, so I brought that up. But Coach Powell just said that anyone who was calling it unsafe was just jealous, and that anyone not running it is stupid.
Coach, when your team put that play from the playbook to the field, how many times was it run before Murray was hurt?
Before he was hurt 4 times.
Now, did Coach Powell ever give Marie any specific instructions on how to run this play?
Yes, several times.
What were those instructions?
Well, as I said, and the difference between how we ran it and the NFL ran it was 4 specific things, right? So Coach Powell will tell Marie, put your face towards the ground, tuck your chin, body parallel to the ground, and then you're pushed forward, down, and under. Those were the specific instructions.
And did Marie follow those instructions?
The first couple of times, no.
How did Coach Powell react when Marie didn't follow those instructions?
I remember there was a practice in August where Marie wasn't quite as parallel to the ground as Coach Powell wanted him to be. He was more upright. And Coach Powell grabbed his helmet, pushed him down, and said, chest parallel to the ground, like a human battering ram. Don't make me say it again.
Did Coach Powell ever tell Marie what would happen if he didn't run that play correctly again?
He did. He threatened to replace Marie on the back of the quarterback.
Coach, I want to talk about the last time the quarterback sneak push was run at that school. When was that?
September 9th.
When it was run on September 9th, what happened?
Well, Marie did exactly as the play wanted him to. He put his face towards the ground, tucked his chin, body parallel
And the offensive lineman, well, they pushed him forward, and he pushed his head into the back of the center. And at that point, well, the 3 offensive linemen were on top of him. There was 2 defensive linemen that grabbed him. A safety jumped over the line of scrimmage on top of him. And there were 6 people on top of him when the play ended. When they all got up, Maurice did it.
Thank you, Coach. You can retake your seat. Your Honor, I have no further questions at this time. Permission to collect on individual rules.
May I proceed with the cross, Your Honor? Hi, Coach Committee. My name is Paula Morales. I'm going to be asking you a few questions today. I just want to address some things that were brought up on the record. So, you stated that the goal of football is to score points, correct?
Yes,
And you were the offensive coordinator for Klein High School.
I was.
You stated on direct that you were overseeing the offensive players, right?
Yes, I helped train them.
Marie Q was the quarterback.
What?
He was an offensive player.
Yes,
So you oversaw him when he ran the play.
I did.
And question, you agree with me that the tush push is an effective play if you're trying to gain those 1 or 2 yards, right?
Yes, like I mentioned, in short yardage situation.
So they help you score points if you're in that situation.
They can, but typically in the NFL, like I mentioned before, it's run differently, where the quarterback is pushed up and over. The way we run it was more dangerous.
Coach Committee, my question specifically was, when you're trying to run this play for shortage yard distances, not for the NFL, it helps you score points.
You can, yes.
Now, you started as the offensive coordinator back in Klein in 2014.
This is true, yes.
So you'd agree with me that you're familiar with football.
Yes, I've been around it all my life.
So you understand how football works.
Yes,
You'd agree with me that football is a high contact sport.
it absolutely is.
Injuries, they're inevitable.
They are. That's why it's our job as the coaching staff to make sure that we're not putting our players in undue risk.
Injuries, they can happen on any play. Is that right?
That's true.
Even if you run the play perfectly.
Yes, there's a lot of factors that we can't account for.
Now, as coach at Klein, you're aware that Marie and his mom, they signed a waiver.
Yes,
You'd recognize this waiver if I showed it to you.
I would.
Coach Goody, this is the waiver that Marie and his mom signed, right?
Yes, it is.
This is his mom's signature.
Yes,
This is Marie's signature.
it is.
Your Honor, can I just signature? Coach Goody, every player that you coached at Klein, they had to sign this waiver. They did. And this waiver, it outlines some of the risks of playing football.
Yes,
Even knowing these risks, players, they still sign it, don't they?
they do.
No one at Klein forces them to sign this waiver.
No.
It's all voluntary.
Yes,
And when you agree with me that when you sign this waiver, you're accepting the risks of playing football.
so long as the people in charge do their job and make sure that there's no unnecessary dangers, yes.
Well, let's talk about what Klein High School did to prepare for this tush play. Now, you'd agree with me that Klein High School, they gave that playbook that you just talked about during on July 15th.
Yes,
So they had 5 weeks to look at this playbook, the players.
yes,
And then you ran it on practice August 20th.
yes,
So that's 5 weeks of it.
yes.
And in that practice, you ran that play not just once,
No, we ran it 3
3 times.
Yes,
And in that practice, Marie gained the yard that you needed.
he did, but he didn't do it the way that Coach Powell wanted him to do. Again, like I mentioned before, face forward, chin tuck, body parallel, push forward.
Coach Mooney, and then you ran that play at a live game.
Yes, on September 5th.
You'd agree with me that as a coach, since you've been coaching for a long time, coaches, they don't call a play unless they know that their players are ready for it, right?
You could say that.
So then Coach Powell called the tush push at that live game against Robert Middle High School.
He did.
And now, I want to talk about a little more of your time at Klein High School. In 2021, the position for a head coach had opened up, didn't it?
It did, yes.
You applied for that position.
I did.
But you didn't get it.
No, I did not.
Coach Powell did.
Yes, she did.
And now you're here blaming Coach Powell, aren't you?
I wouldn't exactly say that. I think the way that we ran the play was dangerous. I told Coach Powell that I thought it was dangerous. I'm just here to talk about that.
Well, earlier on direct, you said it was all Coach Powell's idea, right?
Yes, it's the job of the head coach of every single team to decide and have the final say in what plays are run.
And now, you just stated, you believe this tush push is dangerous, right?
I do, especially for high school players, yeah.
You believe that these players, they should have done it, right?
I do.
And you were there at those practices.
I was.
You didn't do anything to stop these players from running the tush push play.
Not at those practices, but again, I told Coach Powell when she brought it up that first time in July 2024 that I thought it was dangerous and that we shouldn't do it.
But you'd agree with me that you didn't go to the athletic director, Albert Caroline, to try to stop them from running this tush push play.
No, at the end of the day, it's the head coach's job. They have the final say in what plays are run.
So you're telling the story, you told Coach Powell, right?
I did.
But you'd agree with me that there's no emails between you two about your tush push concern.
No, it was spoken out loud.
There's no text messages between you two about this tush push concern that you had.
No.
So you didn't put any of your tush push concerns in writing.
No, I told Coach Powell in that moment.
Now, I want to talk about a little more about Philly and the tush push play. You're aware that Philly was going to ban the tush push in May 2024, right?
Yes, I was aware.
And you're aware because you got an email, and in that email it told you that Philly was going to ban the play, right?
Yes.
But the email only included the text of the rule.
Yes, it said no offensive player can push, pull, or lift a running player to assist his progress.
It didn't say any reason why this play was being banned, right?
No, it didn't.
So when you ran the tush push in August, it was legal.
Yes, but we knew that it was going to be banned the next season.
And I want to talk a little bit about, you were making reference a lot about the NFL, so let's talk about that. Christina, you'd agree with me that no quarterback, aside from Marik, in the NFL level or in the college level, has ever been injured from running this tush push play.
Quarterbacks, no, but there are other players.
I'm not asking you about other players, I'm specifically asking you about quarterbacks.
Quarterbacks, no.
And aside from Marik, you can't name a single player that's ever been paralyzed from running this tush push play.
Not paralyzed, but there have been other minor injuries, yes.
I'm not talking about other injuries, paralysis specifically.
No paralysis.
I have nothing further for this witness now.
Any redirect?
Yes, sir. Coach, I want to clear up some things that you were just asked about on cross-examination. You were asked about your current position and the position you were trying to go for during your time at Thompson. What is your current position?
I am the head coach of the junior varsity football team at Stetson High School.
Coach, you were also asked about the injuries or lack thereof that you had seen while the quarterback push play had been run. What position do other teams run that play?
Again, like I mentioned before, generally in the NFL, they have the quarterback push up and over the other players. We ran it with Marie going down and under.
Finally, Coach, I want to talk to you about that waiver that you were you mentioned on cross-examination. Permission to approach. Now, Coach, on this waiver, I want to direct your attention to the acknowledgement of risk section. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
Do you see the second sentence there?
Yes.
Could you read that sentence for us?
It says, I acknowledge that all reasonable precautions will be taken to ensure safety, but I accept the risks associated with participation in the contact sport.
Permission to approach. Let me do. I have nothing further at this time, Your Honor. May the witness be excused.
Amen.
Break the clock.
Yes, Your Honor. Prior to calling our next live witness, we do have deposition testimony from the plaintiff, Marie Lawrence, who has been stipulated as unavailable today, and we have confirmed with opposing counsel pre-trial regarding the scope of those designations.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. May my co-counsel take the stand? Calling court and counsel's attention to the transcript of trial deposition of Marie Lawrence from June 18th, 2025. Line 7. How old are you?
I just turned 15.
Line 14. Before you got to Klein, had you ever run the QB sneak push in Pop Warner?
No, I'd never seen it run anywhere, other than in the NFL.
Line 19. Tell the jury everything Coach Powell told you to do on August 20th when you practiced the QB sneak push.
Coach Powell showed me a picture of Jalen Hurts and said I should be much lower, knees bent, with my face and torso parallel to the ground.
How did you feel after you ran the play at practice on August 20th?
I was getting drilled on my back. It hurt. I didn't say anything to Coach Powell. Coach Powell always says every week is grit week. The best players play through injuries.
What happened when you ran the quarterback sneak push against Robert Little?
We lost a yard the only time we ran. I ended up on the bottom of a pile of 6 players.
What did Coach Powell say to you after the QB sneak push against Robert Little?
Coach Powell screamed at me and said I wasn't doing what Coach Powell told me to do. Coach Powell threatened to replace me.
What happened when you practiced the QB sneak push on September 9th?
I ran the play just like Coach Powell told me. I felt multiple players hit me on my neck and back. I felt a jolt down my spine like an explosion. I couldn't move my arms or legs. Our trainer and coaches rushed the field. An ambulance took me to the hospital.
When you signed Exhibit 2 and decided to play high school football, what injury risks did you think you were facing?
It's football, so I knew there could be injuries, obviously. I know some players have gotten hurt really bad, but I figured if I practiced, played smart, and listened to my coaches, I'd be okay.
Nothing further, Your Honor. May my co-counsel step down. Of course. And at this time, Your Honor, we call Dr. Kensington Cotter to the stand. May I proceed, Your Honor? Good morning. Could you please turn and introduce yourself to the jury?
Good morning. My name is Dr. Kensington Cotter.
Dr. Cotter, what is your connection to this case?
I was hired by Marique's family to review this case and come to an opinion on the reasonableness of Coach Powell's modification to the QB sneak push play being run at the 9th grade level and determine whether it caused Marique's injuries.
Well, before we get into your opinion, I want to give the jury the chance to get to know you. Now, what do you do for a living?
I'm a sports medicine doctor, which means that I deal with and work with the prevention, diagnosis, and then treatment of various sports-related injuries.
Before becoming a sports medicine doctor, where did you go to medical school?
I went to UCLA, where I graduated in 2011.
Did you do any sort of residency after medical school?
Yes, I did a 3-year residency also at UCLA in family medicine. Then I also did a 1-year fellowship in sports medicine.
Doctor, where do you currently practice?
A couple of places. I'm an attending physician at Cedars-Sinai, where I treat spinal injuries. Attending physician essentially is the person in charge of a patient's care at the hospital, and then oversees the interns, the residents, and the medical students. I'm also a team doctor for UCLA basketball and football, and then I teach at UCLA as well.
Well, you just mentioned you do some work with UCLA, which is a university, but does any of your practice involve treating children?
Yes. It takes up about 10% of my overall practice.
Doctor, have you ever been published in your career?
Yes. I wrote and published an article in the American Journal of Sports Medicine in March of 2024 that discussed the risks of spinal injuries when running the quarterback sneak push play, especially when run with younger athletes.
Now, we know that you were asked to come to an opinion in this case. What did you review in coming to your opinion?
I reviewed all the evidence, the statements, the agreements between the parties, Marique's medical record, as well as my own experience and education in the area of sports medicine and spinal injuries.
Doctor, were you compensated for your time spent reviewing those materials?
Yes, I am paid for my time.
Now, are these the types of materials that a doctor in your field would rely on when coming to an opinion?
Yes, they are.
You mentioned that you reviewed some medical records in this case. Are you aware of the nature of Marique's injuries?
Yes, I am.
Were you able to come to an opinion regarding the cause of those injuries?
Yes, I was.
Were you able to come to that opinion within a reasonable degree of medical certainty?
Yes.
Your Honor, may we approach? At this time, the plaintiff tenders Dr. Kensington Cotter as an expert in sports medicine with a specialty in spinal injuries.
No objection.
Dr. Cotter, what is your opinion in this case?
My opinion is that it was unreasonably dangerous to run Coach Powell's modification of the quarterback sneak push at the 9th grade level, and that it caused Marique's injury.
Well, what's the basis for your opinion?
I have two main points. First is that the quarterback sneak push is unreasonably dangerous for high schoolers in general because they are underdeveloped. And then my second point is that Coach Powell's modification of the position of the quarterback further increased the risk of spinal injuries.
Let's take those two factors in turn, and we'll start first with the underdeveloped kids you just mentioned. Now, if the quarterback sneak push is run in the NFL, why is it unsafe for kids?
9th graders are not NFL players. They are underdeveloped. They are weaker. They weigh less. Their spines are weaker. And that fact leads to the fact that their spines are more susceptible to spinal injuries, especially when placed in certain positions like the one Marique was.
Now, you mentioned that these kids, there's concerns because of their strength. Does that pose any concerns for technique?
Yes. Just like how high schoolers are, underdeveloped compared to NFL players, they're also less experienced. They don't have the requisite technique, which can, in plays like the quarterback sneak push, lead to pileups, as well as inadvertent pushing, uncontrolled pushing, leads to inadvertent and excessive force on the spine. This fact is exacerbated when you look at the position that Coach Powell had Marique in, with his chin tucked, head down, going head first, parallel to the ground.
Let's turn then and talk about that second factor of your opinion, which is Coach Powell's modification to the positioning of his play. Now, Doctor, would stepping down and interacting with a model spine help explain your opinion regarding the cause of injury?
Yes, it would.
Your Honor, may this witness step down and use what's already in evidence as Exhibit 7 as a demonstrative aid? Yeah. Doctor, I'm going to have you come down here to the courtroom. I'm going to have you take this, and I'm going to go over here just so that I am out of the way. Doctor, you have a model spine in your hands, but I want to take a second and kind of walk through its parts. Now, what are the white parts of the spine going down?
So these white parts down here, those are the vertebrae. They're essentially the bones of the back.
What are those clear pieces that are between the vertebrae?
So these clear circular-looking pieces, those are the discs, and they serve a couple of purposes. They act as shock absorbers to the vertebrae, and then they also provide cushion for the spinal cord in the back.
Why does the spinal cord need cushioning?
It's the most important part of the spine. The spinal cord, it controls the rest of the body's movement.
Could you give an example of that?
Yes. So up here at the top, indicated by these two red lines, that's the cervical area of the spine and the spinal cord. That area, the spinal cord controls things like breathing and speaking. And then as you go down the cord, it controls different things like your ability to move your arms, or digestion, or your ability to walk.
Doctor, what would happen if one of those nerves is damaged?
It depends. It depends on the severity of the damage. If there is a complete fracture, and if the spinal cord is severed, then the body would lose its ability to move from that point down.
Doctor, now that we have some of that background information, I want to move into the modification of the play. And first, I want to take a second and talk about the NFL. From your review of the file, when did the quarterback sneak push become popular in the NFL?
It first became popular probably around 2021 when the Philadelphia Eagles and their quarterback, Jalen Hurts, began running this play.
How did the Philadelphia Eagles have the quarterback run this play?
The Philadelphia Eagles, again with their quarterback Jalen Hurts, they ran this play in a slightly upright position with his head up so he could see the field. And then Jalen Hurts would take the snap and would be pushed up and over the offensive and defensive lines, avoiding most of the contact.
Is that how college teams typically ran the play?
It's essentially the same. I can't speak to every team, but the principle is the same, where they're raised, head up, and they go up and over the contact.
Is that how Coach Powell had Marique run the play?
No, it is not.
How did Coach Powell have Marique do it?
Coach Powell modified the positioning of Marique to get parallel to the ground with his head down, chin tucked, and would go head first. He also had Marique get low, so he would dive through and under the other offensive and defensive line.
Doctor, was that safer to do?
No.
Why not?
It goes down to the pressure that this put on the spine. Marique, in this parallel position with his head down, was having force applied to his spine while being pushed forward by his teammates, and then force applied from the other direction when he was colliding with the other players that he was going directly into. As well as the fact that he was low meant that other players would pile on top of Marique after the play was done.
Doctor, from your review of the file, how was the play run on September 9th when Marique was injured?
Marique was in this parallel position as Coach Powell instructed, with his chin tucked, and he snapped the ball, went low, dove, and was pushed by his players, by his teammates from behind. His head went into his center's back, and Marique went down, and 6 or 7 players piled on top. And this force and this pressure being applied from all different directions, it was too much for Marique's underdeveloped spine to handle.
Doctor, from your review of the medical record, which the jury is going to get to see in evidence as Exhibit 5, what happened to Marique?
Like I said, the pressure and the force, it was too much for his spine to handle. And his C4 vertebrae, the 4th one down from the top, shattered and split into at least 3 pieces, severing the spinal cord, and Marique was left paralyzed from that point down. Quadriplegic.
Thank you, Doctor. Your Honor, I just ask that this witness return to the stand. I have no further questions at this time, and I will sit back with the doctor.
You can begin your cross party.
Yes, Your Honor. Dr. Carter, you said that you had been with UCLA's football team for about 7 years, is that right?
That sounds right, yes.
And beyond just working with the football team, you're also a fan of football, aren't you?
I am.
Watch hundreds of games.
Yeah.
So you understand, because of your position and just watching the sport, that football is dangerous, isn't it?
It can be.
Isn't it true that injuries like the one Marique suffered can happen on any given play?
It can happen on any given play, but there are plays and positions that can increase the risk of such a serious injury occurring.
Now, beyond just that injury, other injuries do happen. Essentially every game, correct? Minor injuries, major injuries.
They can, yes.
That's why they hire doctors like you to sit on the sideline to be prepared for injuries like that.
That's one of the reasons.
But you believe that the tush-push play is more dangerous than any other given play, correct?
Yes.
And being a fan of the sport and your experience working with the college football team, You've seen the tush-push play run hundreds of times, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
At the NFL level
Yes,
and at the college level?
yes.
In the hundreds of times this play has been run at the NFL level, how many quarterbacks have been in?
None that I'm aware of, but the way that the NFL runs it is significantly different from the way that Coach Powell modified this play in this case.
Let's talk about the way that the NFL runs it and the way that college runs it. At the college level, in the hundreds of times it's been run at the college level, how many times has the quarterback been injured running this play?
Never, but again, it's different from how Coach Powell ran it.
Well, you keep mentioning how Coach Powell ran it, but isn't it true that you believe that the tush-push itself, without the modifications, is more dangerous than any given play, correct?
Yes, I still do believe it's dangerous, even how the NFL and college run it.
And in the way that the NFL and college ran it, no quarterback has ever been injured running this play, isn't that right?
That I'm aware of, correct.
But you believe that the tush-push is more dangerous because of your experience in the medical field, right?
Yes,
You mentioned that there's bracing, is that what you said? The yellow parts here, could you remind me what that
the
is?
spinal cord.
The spinal cord. What was the cushioning that you mentioned?
That is the discs.
The discs, that they provide cushion, and you said that when forces are applied in certain directions, it's more dangerous, right?
Yes, it can be.
And you understand these things because of the years that you spent in medical school, right?
Yes,
The years that you spent as a physician.
yes,
You worked with the football team as a physician, again, for 7 years.
yes,
You work in the hospital.
that's correct.
Because of all this experience, that's how you understand that this play is more dangerous to a spine.
Yes,
Now, you understand, because of what you reviewed, that Dr. Adams is a neurosurgeon, right?
that is correct.
And Dr. Adams, who the jury's going to hear from later on today, believes that this play was actually safer, right?
That is their belief.
Dr. Adams, being a neurosurgeon, he went through years of medical school just like yourself.
Yes,
He spent years as a neurosurgeon doing surgeries on spines.
that's correct.
And Dr. Adams believes that this play is actually safer, correct?
That is what they said in their report. Yes.
So two medical professionals with advanced degrees can have differing opinions about whether or not this play is safe, correct?
Yes, I believe that's apparent here.
Can we agree that a high school coach wouldn't have the same medical experience that a professional like yourself would?
That is correct.
But we can agree that a high school coach would most likely be a fan of the sport, right?
I would assume so.
Much like yourself.
Yes.
So being a fan of the sport, a high school coach would have seen this play run hundreds of times at the NFL level, right?
I guess
And at the college level.
if they watch college football.
And in the hundreds of times that the average high school football coach would have seen this play run, how many quarterbacks would they have seen injured?
I know that I've seen none injured. I don't know how many they would have seen.
Nothing further to this, John.
Yes, Your Honor. Dr. Potter, you were just asked about reviewing Dr. Adams' opinion in this case. Did Dr. Adams' opinion change your opinion in any way?
No, Dr. Adams is wrong.
You were asked about injuries at college and in the NFL. Is that the same play that Coach Powell had Marie run?
No. Coach Powell significantly modified the position of the quarterback, increasing risk to spinal injuries.
Thank you, Doctor. Your Honor, I have no further questions for this witness. I just ask that he be excused. Your Honor, at this time, the plaintiff rests.
At this time, Your Honor, the defense would like to make a motion outside the presence of the jury. Your Honor, the defense moves for a motion of judgment as a matter of law pursuant to federal rule of civil procedure 50. Even looking at the evidence in light most favorable to the non-moving party, the plaintiff has failed to establish proximate cause. As you heard from the evidence, these coaches couldn't have possibly foreseen that this kind of injury could happen from this kind of play. You heard from the evidence with Coach Mooney that at the time, the coaches only knew that the play was being ran. They didn't know why. They didn't know that it was to prevent injuries. We've also just heard from Dr. Potter that these coaches, they don't have that same knowledge of the spine just like these medical experts do. So for those reasons, Your Honor, we ask that you grant the motion.
Your Honor, in viewing the evidence in a light most favorable to the plaintiff as a non-moving party, we have put forth sufficient evidence today in which a reasonable jury could find that we have met our burden on our negligence claim. Now, first addressing duty and harm, it's not disputed today that Coach Powell had a duty or Klein High School had a duty to keep the freshman football players safe, and there's no dispute that Marie suffered harm on September 9th when he was paralyzed. Now, looking at breach and specifically causation, there was testimony elicited that Coach Clooney did express concerns to Coach Powell regarding the decision to use this play, and that Coach Powell decided as the ultimate decision maker that she was going to implement this play in the playbook. We also heard testimony that the positioning of the quarterback in this play was significantly altered. Rather than going upright, up and over the line, Marie was going to go parallel, head first with his chin tucked and under the line. And we heard testimony from Dr. Potter just a moment ago that that specific positioning, that change in that positioning, is what increased the risk of injury and actually caused the injury in this case. And that decision to modify the play was not a reasonable one. Therefore, the question of causation is absolutely a question for the jury at this time, and we ask that you deny the defense's motion.
In terms of
We're not close to 500.
It's 5 minutes.
Okay, so it is 10:09.
Yes, Your Honor.
Oh, yeah.
Writing a lot, so I'm not sure. And now I'm here.
Like the, well, because I prefer this 19 chapters instead of 15 minutes. Yeah, it's not chapter, an hour. Really? Yeah. That's so cool. Yeah. I don't think there's no awareness of it. Yeah. I know, because everything is like, this. Yeah. You know, I've been to like, that's, is it literally takes me 40 minutes. Oh, wow. So, and I really didn't think. Oh, just like. Yeah.
With their niece judging.
Yeah, right, it's a big context.
All right, is the defense ready to proceed?
Yes, we are, Your Honor.
All right, call your first witness.
Your Honor, defense calls Coach Jackie Powell to the stand. Good morning, Coach Powell. Could you introduce yourself to the jury, please?
Good morning, my name is Jackie Powell.
What do you do for a living?
I am the head coach of freshman football at Thomas R. Klein High School.
As the head coach, could you explain a little bit about what that position looks like for you?
Sure, I take great responsibility for these boys. You know, I'm not only teaching them football, I'm teaching them how to live in the world. These are 14, 15-year-old boys, so I teach them about the sport. I also teach them about discipline and what it's like to be on a team.
Coach Powell, there's been a lot of discussion today about the push-push play that Klein High School ran. Could you walk the jury through how you decided to run that play? What did that?
Sure. So I was talking to one of our other coaches, there are three of us, over the summer, and we kind of decided, me and Coach Clooney, that we would do this push-push for specifically short yardage play situations.
Now, did you run the play the same way that the Eagles run the play?
No, we didn't.
And how many times have you seen the Eagles run that play?
I mean, hundreds.
If you saw a video of the way that the Eagles ran the play, would that help explain the differences between that play and the way that you decided to run the play?
I'm sure it would.
Your Honor, can this witness step down to interact with Exhibit 9 that's admitted in evidence?
You may.
And Your Honor, before I have this witness interact with this exhibit for the jury, would the court like to see it so we understand, so that the court understands what's being discussed here?
People stand through and through. See it many times.
Yes, Your
No,
Honor.
thank you.
Coach Bell, if you can join me over here. I'm going to let this video play once in its entirety for the jury so they have context of what's being discussed. Coach Bell, I'm going to play this video on repeat at 0.5 speed. And I want you to explain what you see when you're watching the Eagles run this play and the modifications that you made.
Sure. So if you see at the beginning, Jalen Hurts takes a pretty big hit right at the beginning of the push. Part of the reason I modified it is because these players, they're strong, they're taller, they weigh a lot more than freshmen. So I modified it so that instead of taking a big hit, Marie would be closer to the ground.
Now, you said Jalen Hurts. I'm going to pause the video at the very beginning. Could you explain who Jalen Hurts is and what position he plays?
Sure, he is right in the middle. He is the quarterback.
And when you're discussing the hit that he took, where's that taking place?
Right in the middle, right there. It's kind of hard to see, but.
And one more time, could you explain why you made that modification of getting Marie running the play lower than Jalen Hurts?
Sure. So in the original tush push, the player doesn't go under; they go sort of straight forward, and a lot of the players can pile on top of them. I thought that would be a safety risk for someone as small as Marie. He was 5'2", like 100 pounds soaking wet. So I had him get more parallel to the ground, so he wouldn't risk having that pile on.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Steve. Coach Val, after you made this modification and you decided to run the play, could you walk the jury through the first time that you ran this play?
Sure. So we ran it at one of our summer practices on August 20th. We ran it 3 times that day. And after the first time, I had Marie, being the quarterback in the play, and all the players afterwards were, high-fiving him. They were slapping him on the back. One of them called him Mini Hurts, like Jalen Hurts, and it was all around just, it was a great scene.
How did Marie react to running the play?
He seemed excited. He was smiling. He was running around too, interacting with the other boys. Had no complaints.
Now, Coach Val, I want to take you to September 9th, the last time that you ran this play. Could you walk the jury through what happened that day?
Yeah. So that was another practice. That was a couple weeks after this. We ran the play, the same play that we had ran, a few times before with no problem. And after we ran it, I looked out there and Marie wasn't moving. He was just left.
Coach Val, earlier, Coach Clooney took the stand and said that she told you that this play was unsafe. Is that true?
No.
Do you have any reason to understand why she would say something about that?
No, I don't. We discussed the play together at Wicked Wolf one day, decided to do it. I don't know why she would say it.
before you ran this play, did you have any indication this play was dangerous?
I've seen it hundreds of times with no problem.
Nothing further than that.
Yes. Kyle, I want to start by talking to you about something that you just said on direct examination. You said that you had no indication that your version of the play was any less safe than what you had seen before.
That's right, yeah.
That you had seen this play run hundreds of times.
Yep.
Coach, let's be perfectly clear. You had seen the play run hundreds of times in the NFL,
Yeah, that's true.
where the quarterback is upright,
That's true.
not head first.
That's correct, yeah, they're not as close to the ground.
I want to talk to you about something else that you said on cross-examination. You said that you modified this play so that the quarterback avoids a big hit.
That's right, yeah, Marie being so much smaller, I thought that would be safer.
And then you said that you were worried that it was a safety risk, that players would pile on top of the quarterback.
That's right.
Coach, your solution to that was to have the quarterback go lower.
Yes,
Lower and under the other players on the field.
that's right, so they didn't get the head-on collision.
Well, Coach, a head-on collision did happen to Marie, right?
A lot of people ended up piling on top of him. I'm not sure if it was a head-on collision.
All right, Coach, let's talk about when you first modified that play. That was going into the 2024 season when that happened.
That's right.
Prior to that, you had been the head coach for 2 years,
Yes, I took over in 2022.
right? When you took over in 2022, your team only won 1 game.
Yes, we did not have a good season.
The next year, in 2023, you also only won 1 game.
That's right.
Going into 2024, it felt like your job was on the line.
I mean, a little bit, yeah, I haven't really been having great results.
Let's be clear, the great results that you wanted were more than 1 win, right?
Right, yeah.
Now, when you modified that play, put it into your playbook, you ran it 4 times before Marie was hurt.
That's correct.
I want to talk about one of those times that you didn't mention on direct examination. The only time you ran it during a game was on September 5th, right?
That's right.
That was against Robert Little High School.
Yes.
When you ran it on September 5th, Marie didn't get hurt.
No, we didn't.
Coach, on September 5th, Marie didn't run the play like you told him to.
No, he did not during that game, no.
Right? He ran it in that upright position.
That's right, yeah, he wasn't as close to the ground.
Coach, the next time that Marie ran that play was on September 9th.
That's right, yes.
When he ran it on September 9th, he did it exactly how you told him to.
Yes, he was more parallel to the ground than he had been before.
Well, he wasn't just more parallel, Coach. He also had his face down.
That's right, yeah, he was parallel to the ground.
He had his chin tucked, just like you told him.
Yep,
And then he was pushed head first as he was parallel to the ground.
that's right.
Coach, when that happened, players piled onto Marie's back.
Yes, that's true.
Same thing that you were worried would be a safety risk.
That was part of why I modified it, yes.
When those players got up, Marie didn't.
That's right, yeah. He was laying there.
He was laying there, paralyzed.
We later found out that he was paralyzed.
Now, Coach, I want to talk about the roster that you had when you modified this plan. Marie was your starting quarterback, right?
Yes, he was.
But let's be perfectly clear, he wasn't your only quarterback.
No, that's right. We had a couple others.
Right? A couple other quarterbacks who were taller than Marie,
Yes, they were.
bigger than Marie.
Yes.
Coach, you do know what a substitution is, right?
I mean, of course, yeah. I've been coaching football for a long time.
Right, so you knew that those quarterbacks could have substituted in for Marie if you wanted.
Yeah, I mean, that's how the game works, yeah.
Nothing further this time, gentlemen.
Coach Bell, it was just mentioned on cross that Marie wasn't hurt during the game.
That's right.
And on cross, the opposing counsel said that that's because that Marie ran the play differently than he was coached to.
Yes, that's what he said.
Now on November 20th, first time Marie ran this play, did he run it the way that he coached him?
Yes.
Was he wrong?
No, we ran it 3 times on August 20th.
Opposing counsel also just said on cross that Marie had players piled on his back during this play. Is this the only play in football where players pile onto someone's back?
No, I mean, of course not. It's most football plays. Football is, you know, pretty dangerous sport.
Nothing further. Okay, this witness, please.
We have another witness. Yes, Your Honor, defense calls Dr. Omega Adams to the stand. Hi, Dr. Adams. Can you introduce yourself to the jury?
Yes, good morning. My name is Dr. Omega Adams.
What do you do for a living?
I'm an attending neurosurgeon at the Alabama Hospital.
Can you tell the jury what it is that you typically do as a neurosurgeon?
So as a neurosurgeon, my primary responsibilities are treating spinal injuries such as I conduct spinal surgeries, I conduct surgeries on the brain, on the nervous system. It's everything in relation to the nervous system to the brain.
I want to talk a little bit about your education now. Where did you get your undergrad degree?
I received my undergrad degree in Bachelor of Science at Stanford University.
And where did you go to medical school?
That was at the University of Alabama Hospital.
Where did you get your residency?
That was the University of Florida Health
What was your residency in?
in neurosurgery.
How long was your residency?
It was about 6 years, from 2001 to 2007.
After your residency, can you tell us if you completed any fellowships?
Yes, ma'am. After I completed my residency, I did 1 year of fellowship at the Barrow Neurological Institute for complex spinal surgeries and for neurotrauma.
Can you tell us if you have any certifications?
Yes, since 2009, I've been a board certified neurosurgeon with the American Board of Neurological Surgery.
Dr. Adams, I want to talk a little bit about your experience now. How long have you been in the neurosurgery field?
In the field, I've been in the field for about over 20 years at this point.
Throughout your career, how many spinal injuries have you treated?
I've treated thousands within my time.
And from those thousands injuries that you've treated, were any of those related to football?
Yes, ma'am. And in the thousands that I've conducted, I've had various different surgeries that were directly involved or directly related to football injuries.
Have you ever testified as an expert witness in court before?
Yes, ma'am. I've testified in different areas such as spinal force or biomechanical injury causations and things such as that.
What is biomechanical injury causation?
So biomechanics is the science of force, or the science of how impact force is applied upon the body and how those forces can create certain injuries.
Can you tell the jury why you're here today?
I'm here, so I was hired by the defense to conduct an analysis on a certain play, the tush push, and whether the mechanics of that play contributed to the overall injury suffered by Mr. Niblins.
What methods did you use to help come to this conclusion?
I used my 20 years of experience and training in order to conduct my analysis.
What materials did you review to help come to this conclusion?
I reviewed all the exhibits that were provided to me, including the medical discharge summaries, the different depositions that were made, and the expert reports given by opposing experts.
And are those methods and materials commonly relied on by experts in your field?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you reliably apply them to the facts in this case?
Yes, ma'am. I did.
Did you come to this conclusion with a reasonable degree of scientific certainty?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you believe that your opinion will be helpful for the jury to understand the evidence?
Yes, I do.
Your Honor, at this time, the defense tenders this witness as an expert in spinal cord injuries.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right. Dr. Adams, what opinion did you come to in this case?
In this case, my opinion is that the tush push is a play that uses slow mechanics and close collisions, and therefore only results in slow impacts, low impacts.
Why did you come to this conclusion?
Well, I analyzed the play in itself and the mechanics of the play. The tush push is a play that involves close collision. The offensive line and the defensive line are right next to each other. It's a slow play, which only leads to low impacts given the relatively slowness and the relatively closeness of the play.
Can you tell the jury what impact this play has on the spine of high school students?
Well, on high school students' spines, the spines of high school students, they are weaker compared to average adults as they're still underdeveloped. That being said, given the slowness and the low impact force that is resulted from this tush push, it only leads to low impact forces on any form of spine or body.
Now, as part of the materials that you reviewed for this case, you stated that you reviewed Dr. Potter's report, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Based on your professional opinion, did you find any flaws in that report?
Yes, ma'am. From what I read, I disagree with two of the opinions that were provided by Dr. Potter.
So what are those opinions that you disagree with?
Well, I disagree with his opinion that the tush push is especially dangerous for high school students' spines. And second, I disagree with his opinion that the tush push is especially dangerous for marine nucleus, simply based on his size and stature.
So let's take this apart for the jury. Why do you disagree that this play is dangerous for high school students' spines?
Well, once again, this play is a play that involves slow movements, close collision, and as a result, low impact forces. In addition, there is no data to provide that any high school student has ever been injured by the tush push or any quarterback nonetheless.
Why do you disagree with the claim that the tush push is especially dangerous for marine spine in this height and weight?
Well, simply because there is no data to support it. Dr. Potter simply stated an opinion, but he did not provide any research or any method as to how he came to this conclusion. There is no data showing that a student at the size of Mr. Newbury had been hurt by the tush push or had ever been paralyzed by such a play.
Dr. Adams, I now want to talk about a little more about spinal injuries and how they're common in football. Can you tell us how common spinal injuries are in football?
Spinal injuries are common in football. This is because any kind of play can result in these kind of injuries.
Can you give us an example?
Well, a simple tackle is just the most common and known form of attack in football. It is the most simplest way that you can get these kinds of injuries given the force that it impacts upon the spine.
Dr. Adams, going forward, would it be helpful for you to interact with the model spine so that the jury can understand the evidence?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, permission to have this witness step down and interact with model 6, which is already been admitted. It's a 7. Dr. Adams, using this spine, can you walk the jury through how a spine can be impacted with doing something as simple as a tackle?
So, to explain the way that injuries are caused upon the spine is by a force known as axial loading, which simply means force being applied upon the axis of the spine. Now, it's any kind of force that can create an injury. It doesn't matter if this force is coming from the front, if it's coming from the side, if it's coming from the back. Whether you're running along the sidelines and the player tackles you from the side, there is impact force that is being applied upon the spine. If you're running down a straight line and somebody attacks you from the back, there is impact force, axial loading that's being applied upon the spine. If you're looking face down to an offensive line and they hit you from the front, there is impact force, axial loading that's being applied upon the spine. Any play can create the kinds of injuries, the kinds of fractures, the kinds of things that we're seeing today's case.
Dr. Adams, is there ever a way to completely eliminate the risk of a spinal injury in football?
No, there is not. There's no way to completely remove the risk of injury as the risk is part of the sport.
Thank you, Dr. Adams. You may have to proceed. I have nothing further for this witness, Your Honor.
Okay.
Dr. Adams, part of your opinion is that the quarterback sneak push is a low impact play. You claim that that means that there's less force involved.
Yes, sir.
But doctor, you would agree that it doesn't take a lot of force to injure a neck.
Yes, sir.
You actually just talked about axial loading,
Yes.
which you wrote in your report that can happen on any routine tackle.
Yes, sir.
And that's force that is applied to somebody's head or neck that can cause an injury.
Yes.
Now, doctor, you agree that if somebody is running head first, that would increase the risk of force to their head or neck.
Yes, ma'am, any kind of play can result in that kind of force.
You'd agree that especially if somebody is running head first.
You can say that, yes.
Now, part of your opinion is that football is inherently dangerous,
Yes,
that Marie assumed the risk of this injury,
he played the game, yes, ma'am.
because you reviewed the waiver that was signed in this case,
I agree.
the waiver that Marie signed.
Yes, ma'am.
But you saw in that waiver that it said that all reasonable precautions will be taken to keep the players safe.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's talk about why you think it's reasonable to have Marie dive in this way. Doctor, you know that people are warned not to dive headfirst into the shallow end of a pool, right?
They have those points, yes.
Diving, it doesn't take a whole lot of force.
Yes, ma'am.
The shallow end of a pool, it's only a few feet away, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Like a yard.
Yes, ma'am.
That can injure somebody's head or neck.
Yes, diving head down to a concrete floor would injure the head.
You'd agree, doctor, that running headfirst into the back of a football player pushing the opposite direction would also create force on someone's neck.
Yes, there is risk of force, yes.
Now, I want to move on to another factor of your opinion, that this play is safe because it's run in the NFL. It's run in the NCAA.
Yes,
You even found 2 high schools in your research that also run the quarterback sneak push.
yes, 2 schools in Texas.
Right, but those 2 schools in Texas, they run it like the NFL do.
Yes,
And we can agree that Coach Powell did not have Marie run this play like the NFL.
he made some adjustments this time.
Right, I want to talk about those adjustments. Doctor, we can agree that NFL players, they're bigger than Marie was.
Yes, ma'am.
Their bones are stronger than Marie's are.
Yes, ma'am.
In the NFL, the players, they tend to run it pretty upright.
Yes.
Their chest is more up.
Not completely, but yes, more.
Right. And you actually said in your report that this helps reduce the risk of blindside collisions.
Yes, ma'am.
And the play is actually designed for the quarterback to go more up and over the line of defenders.
That's how the play was done, yes, ma'am.
But Coach Powell had Marie go parallel to the ground
Yes, to my understanding, he wanted them to avoid frontal collisions.
with his head down,
Yes,
chin tucked,
yes, ma'am.
looking at the ground,
Yes, ma'am.
not up in front of him,
Yes, ma'am.
to avoid frontal collisions.
Yes, ma'am. We want to avoid the main forces that are applied this way. Yes, ma'am.
He wanted to avoid forces by having Marie dive low,
That's what I said, yes, ma'am.
under the line.
Yes, ma'am.
You're actually aware that at one point, Coach Powell forced Marie lower to the ground.
As to his, how he wants his position to be, yes, ma'am.
Doctor, you'd agree that somebody looking down at the ground, well, that's going to reduce their ability to see in front of them.
Yes, ma'am.
That's going to increase the risk of a blindside collision.
You could say that blindside collision is either that you can't see them or that they're not expected to be there, but Marie knew where he needed to go.
Marie was looking down at the ground.
Yes, he was.
He had a helmet on.
Yes,
He was not able to see in front of him.
I don't believe so, no.
And he was diving below and under the line.
Yes, ma'am.
Doctor, you're aware that on September 9th, 2024, Marie started the play in the exact position that Coach Powell wanted him to be in.
Yes,
He had 3 players shove him from behind.
yes,
He met force head on by the offensive line pushing him.
yes, ma'am.
He actually, his head met the center's back that day.
I think so.
Now, he also had about 5 or 6 players pile on top of his back.
Yes,
Doctor, you know that the average high school freshman is about 125 pounds?
yes, ma'am.
So 5 players on his back, even if they were all 100 pounds, that would be 500 pounds on Marie's back.
Yes, ma'am.
All that pressure, it caused his C4 vertebra to shatter.
Unfortunately, yes.
You saw the medical record in this case.
Yes,
You saw that the diagnosis was spinal cord compression.
yes,
And as a doctor, you know that compression, it means to squeeze something,
yes, ma'am.
to put pressure on it.
Yes,
And that pressure, it severed Marie's spinal cord.
yes, ma'am.
He was paralyzed from the neck down.
Yes,
Now,
ma'am.
doctor, you actually said you would not recommend running the play this way.
Well, I'm not a football coach. I was simply running how the NFL does. I don't have that kind of knowledge.
Right, you would run it like the NFL does, but you said that it was reasonable because there's a first time for everything.
Yes, ma'am, it's part of it. I would believe that coaches explore new alternatives, new ways to implement plays to the players.
You found it reasonable because there's a first time for everything.
He's a football coach, I am.
Doctor, I want to take a second and talk about what's not first time for you today. Today is not your first time getting paid by Klein High School.
No, ma'am, I offer services from my experience.
You've been paid 30 grand for your services so far.
Yes, ma'am.
And you're being paid $2,000 an hour to sit here and testify today.
Yes, ma'am, I've had 20 years of experience in my field. I simply ask for reasonable compensation.
Okay, well, let's talk about your reasonable compensation for defense clients, because today is not your first time testifying for a defense client.
Yes, ma'am.
You've done that over 100 times now.
I've been hired by defense, yes, ma'am.
That actually makes up 90% of your income at this point.
At this current time, yes.
Speaking of defense clients, well, Dr. Adams, today is not your first time seeing Coach Powell.
No.
She's a patient of yours.
Yes, ma'am. She was in a crash about 5 years ago, and I was the individual that treated her.
She's actually a good friend of yours.
Yes, ma'am. I like to keep friendly relations with my clients.
And now, Coach Powell, sitting at the defense table, is with a defense client of yours.
Yes, at the school.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, free for your honor, you may. Hi, Dr. Adams. I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that were discussed on cross-examination. I want to talk about your relationship with Coach Powell. Does that relationship affect your opinions that you came to today about Tush Bush's safety?
No, ma'am, not at all. I take my profession very serious. I would not put it on the line for something like that.
And opposing counsel was focusing on Coach Powell's modification. Can you tell us why you believe that Coach Powell's modification is as equally dangerous as other football plays?
Well, simply because there's no data to suggest that his new his alternate version that he created would increase the risks of this play compared to any other play that is run in football.
Thank you, Dr. Adams. I have nothing further for this witness. May we take the excuse?
Yes.
All right, so before we proceed with closing arguments, I think it might be some benefit to let you guys confer with each other, given the testimony that took place. So it is 10:45. I'm sorry,
5 minutes. 5 minutes.
okay, 10:45, that's not like it.
May we go ahead and get the well set up for closing, Your Honor?
And you'll have coaching.
Yeah.
All right, are we ready to proceed with closing argument?
Yes, we are.
Yes, Your Honor.
Council, whenever you're ready, the floor is yours.
Your Honor, permission to reserve any remaining time for rebuttal.
Yes.
May it please the court. Counsel. Members of the jury. All day today, the defense has tried to tell you that there's nobody to blame here. They tried to tell you that a 14-year-old boy was supposed to understand the risks of injury, but also saying that Coach Powell herself did not understand the risks. Can't be both, members of the jury. What we know is that Coach Powell made a decision to modify this play. Coach Powell's decision to run that dangerous play, it destroyed Marique's life. Face down. Your body should be parallel to the ground. Don't make me say it again. So Marique walked up to the line one last time, not knowing that those would be the last steps that he ever took. He got into the exact position that Coach Powell instructed him to be in. Not upright like the pros going up and over the line, but with his head down, with his chin tucked, being shoved from behind like a human battering ram. When he did that, Marique was paralyzed from the neck down. Coach Powell's decision to run a dangerous play destroyed Marique's life. That's why we're here today. Because we have sued the defendant, Klein High School, for negligence. Not because injuries cannot happen in football, but because the decision that Coach Powell made to modify this play created an unnecessary, unreasonable risk. Now, in bringing a claim of negligence, that means that we have the burden to prove four things to you today. We had to prove that the defendant had a duty to keep their freshman football players safe, that Coach Powell breached that duty by having Maurice run this play with his head down. And that decision, it foreseeably caused Maurice's paralysis. We did that today, so let's start by talking about the duty that the defendant owed to their freshman, and how Coach Powell breached that duty. Members of the jury, safety matters. Children matter, especially when somebody is put in charge of protecting those children. In the defendant, Klein High School, they put Coach Powell in charge of the freshman football team. And that means that they are responsible if Coach Powell failed to keep any of those kids safe, including Marie. You know that Coach Powell did fail because of how she modified this play. My co-counsel, Mr. Luke, at the beginning of this trial, he told you to pay attention to two things. The pressure that Coach Powell was under to win. All that pressure, it crushed Marie's back. You heard today that Coach Powell really needed a win after 2 back-to-back losing seasons. He felt like his job was on the line. So, out comes the quarterback sneak push play being run by his freshman. But you heard that the pressure that Coach Powell was under, it turned into pressure on Marie's back. You heard testimony from Marie today. Couldn't be here. But you heard that Coach Powell literally threatened to replace him, to bench him as the starting quarterback if he didn't run this play exactly the way that Coach Powell instructed him to. When he did that, Marie was paralyzed. So let's talk about this play. Now, all day today, the defense has tried to tell you that this play was safe and that Marie assumed the risk of it and that it was a low-impact play. All he needed to do was tuck his head and dive low. But what matters, members of the jury, is the specific positioning that Coach Powell forced Marie into, with his head down, chin tucked, looking down, not able to see in front of him. Then he was shoved from behind, met by a wall of players coming in the opposite direction, and then he had all those people pile on top of his back while diving below. We know, members of the jury, why it's not safe to dive head first into the shallow end of the pool. You actually heard the defense's expert agree with me on that today. It is not safe. We know that somebody's head or neck could get injured when they are diving head first. And then you take them getting shoved from behind, the wall of players coming the other way. Completely foreseeable. Not only is a head or a neck injury foreseeable in that scenario, but Dr. Cotter's testimony today told you that this modification to the play is what caused Marie's injuries. So let's talk causation. Dr. Cotter started by telling you today that 14-year-olds in general, they're at a higher risk of injury. They're kids, they're smaller, they have weaker bones. But when you take the positioning that Coach Powell forced Marie into, made that risk even higher. He started by telling you that the NFL players, they run this play, they run it upright. They go up and over the pile, and they can see in front of them. But Marie, he went parallel. His head was down, his chin was tucked. He was looking at the ground while diving low. He had 3 people shoving him from behind. He was met with force head on from the other players, and he even hit the center's back with his head. Then he had over 500 pounds pile on top of his neck and back. When that happened, C4 vertebra shattered. Spinal cord severed. Marie was paralyzed from the neck down. The medical record from the hospital that day, which you're going to get to see when you go back to delivery, it confirms every word of that. Spinal cord compression, pressure to the spine. But Dr. Adams, the defense's expert and Coach Powell's doctor and good friend, Well, he disagreed with me today, and he tried to tell you that this play was reasonable, that the NFL, well, they run this play upright, and it helps avoid blindside collisions. But in the same breath, told you that it was safe and reasonable for Marie to run with his head down, not able to see in front of him, and that actually increases the risk of blindside collisions. But it was okay, members of the jury, because there's a first time for everything. But you heard everything that's not a first for Dr. Adams today. You heard that 90% of his income comes from testifying for defense clients, like the one here today. What do you think is going to happen to that big book of defense clients if he gives an opinion that's not favorable to them? They won't hire him again. What do you think is going to happen to his relationship with Coach Powell, his doctor-patient relationship and his friendship? Gone. He had every reason to tell you today that this play was safe, when your common sense, life experience, and medical science, I'll tell you it's not. Now, we're not here today to say that the way that the NFL runs this play upright is dangerous and that injuries can't happen in football. But we also know that Coach Powell had other options. You heard that Coach Powell had 2 other freshman players, freshman quarterbacks on the roster that could have been substituted in for this specific play. Quarterbacks that are bigger than Marie, that are taller than Marie, that are stronger than Marie, that could run this play upright. But Coach Powell ignored that reasonable alternative and actually turned it into a threat against Marie, and instead decided to have the smallest quarterback on the team go parallel. Chin tucked, looking at the ground, like a human back at the ground. Coach Powell tried to tell you today that she thought this play was safe, but members of the jury, what Coach Powell thought or intended doesn't matter. Because when the judge instructs you on the law in just a moment, she will tell you that negligence is determined by what is objectively reasonable under the circumstances. Objective things like your common sense or life experience in medical science, they all tell you the same thing. That having a 14-year-old boy put his head down, looking down at the ground and shoved from behind, that's going to create an unreasonable risk of an injury to their head and neck. That's going to breach a duty of care to keep children safe. That decision foreseeably caused Marie's paralysis. In other words, members of the jury, it was negligent. Now, the defense is going to come up here in a moment and talk to you about this waiver. Talk about the fact that 14-year-old boy assumed the risk of this injury. But the one thing that they didn't want to talk about on this waiver is that it says the coaches will take all reasonable precautions to ensure player safety. You know that nothing about the way that Coach Powell modified this play was reasonable, and that a 14-year-old boy did not and could not assume the risk of paralysis on a waiver that he signed months before this play was even put in the playbook. We can't rewind back and undo Marie's injuries or stop Coach Powell from ever modifying this play in the first place. But the defendant can be held responsible for Coach Powell's decisions. As members of the jury, this is never the Marie sneak. It was always Coach Powell's positioning. It was always Coach Powell's play. And it was Coach Powell's decision to run a dangerous play that destroyed Marie's life. Find the defendant liable. This was a tragic accident. But not every accident has someone to blame. Football is a tough sport. It's fast, it's physical, and it's dangerous.
it's also a game that's loved by generations. It's loved by kids like Marie. He worked his way to get to position as quarterback. It's loved by parents, by moms that wear their son's jersey and cheer from the stands on Friday nights, by families that gather around the TV on Sundays, and by coaches who made this sport their life work. For these coaches, football isn't just a job. It's their calling. They spend long hours in that field with their players, training and perfecting every play. They study different plays from different football teams, and they strategize. And they walk the sidelines in the heat, cold, and rain. These coaches love football just as much as those fans in those stands do, if not more, because they live it every day. But as much as these kids, parents, and coaches love football, it's also not a gentle sport. Unlike soccer, baseball, or even basketball, football is built on full-speed collisions, bodies clashing against bodies, play after play. Every single athlete who straps on their pads knows this truth. If I play football, I will get hurt. Whether it's just a bruise, a sprain, and sometimes it's even worse, like broken bones and paralysis. Injuries in football aren't just possible. They're inevitable. So when a new play like the tush push gained national attention, a play that's known to be incredibly effective, it wasn't surprising that high school teams wanted to give this play a chance, especially Klein High School. And they did. Coach Powell, he's been coaching for a long time. And coaching isn't just about loving the sport. It's about loving your players. It's about protecting them. And you heard him tell you on that stand that he modified the play to keep Marie safe. He didn't want Marie to take the same hits that Jalen Hurts was taking when he was getting tackled. So he made Marie get lower to avoid all those tackles. He made a decision that he believed was going to keep Marie safe. And he had no information to suggest that it wasn't. Then on September 9th, even though Marie executed the play just as Coach Powell told him, he was still hurt. That doesn't mean that it's because of negligence. It just means that football is a risky game. No coach could have ever predicted that an injury like this could have happened from running this kind of play. And today, the burden lied on the plaintiff. They had to prove to you that these coaches were negligent, that it's more likely than not that these coaches failed to act like reasonable coaches would have. But all throughout this trial, you heard evidence that points to the fact that Coach Powell's decision was reasonable. And I'll walk you through that. Now, I want to address something before I do. Opposing counsel, they were pointing to the fact that Coach Powell was coaching Marie aggressively, that he was pulling his helmet down, that he was yelling at them. Coaching style, that's not negligence. What opposing counsel is trying to get you to do is to judge this coach based on his personality, not based on his actions. Your job here today is to determine whether Coach Powell made a decision that no other reasonable coach would have made. And the evidence points to that it was reasonable. Now today you heard from Coach Clooney. And Coach Clooney told you that this play is so dangerous, she didn't even think that these players should be running this play. But you also heard from Coach Clooney how she did nothing to stop these players from running this tush-push play. Common sense tells you that if Coach Clooney truly believed that this play was dangerous, then she would have done something to stop these players from running it. She didn't. She didn't go to the athletic director. And she told you that she told Coach Powell. But you also heard how there's no text, there's no emails, there's nothing in writing that proves that this actually happened. Instead, all we have to go based off of is the word of a coach that didn't get the position as head coach at Klein High School. Coach Powell. And let's talk about those reasonable precautions that Coach Powell took. The tush push, it wasn't some last-minute decision. It was a play that was carefully practiced and executed by Coach Powell. He gave the players the playbook weeks in advance. They reviewed it, and then they trained the play more than once in practice. And each time in practice, Marie gained the yard that they needed. The play worked exactly as it was meant to. And there were no reported injuries in that practice. You heard today from Coach Powell how they were all celebrating that practice because he did it perfectly. They were calling him Mini Hurts. And today, you also heard from Dr. Carter. And Dr. Carter tried to convince you that these coaches, they should have known better. Because an injury like this was likely to happen because the spine for high school students is weaker. But let's be clear about one thing. Dr. Adams is a medical expert that spent years in medical school learning about the human body. These coaches, they don't have that same experience. But what these coaches do know, and what they've spent years mastering, is how to teach technique. How to position your body in a way so that you can avoid getting tackled, which is exactly what Coach Powell told you. Your job here today is to hold these coaches to the standard of another reasonable coach with the same knowledge. And here, it's clear that no high school coach could have ever predicted that an injury like this was going to happen. Because you heard it time and time again throughout this trial, that no quarterback has ever been injured from running this tush-push play. No player has ever been paralyzed from running this tush-push play. And that matters. Because if no player has ever been paralyzed, if no quarterback has ever been injured, then how could these coaches have possibly predicted that something like this was going to happen? They couldn't have. And today, as defense, we have to prove to you that the plaintiff assumed the risk. And to do that, we have to show you that the plaintiff understood the risk. They voluntarily exposed themselves to that risk, and they were harmed because of that risk. Members of the jury, the moment that you step out into this football field, you accept the risks of the game. Not just with the tush push, but with every play in football. And today you heard from Dr. Adams, and he reminded you of the truth that every player knows in football. And it's that spinal cord injuries that are common in every play, not just the tush push. And there is no way to avoid spinal cord injuries while playing football. The only way that you can avoid getting injured in football is to not play football. That wasn't an option for Murray. Because he loved the game. He had the passion that made his coaches proud. His mom stood by him, supported him, and together they made a decision, an informed decision. They signed a waiver, and you saw that waiver today. They told them about the risks that come with playing football. And you also heard today that no one at Klein forced them to sign this waiver. This case, it's not about blaming Marie for his mom for signing this waiver, but it's about recognizing that they made an informed decision under the law, and that matters. So I ask you to not let this one tragic injury erase all of the hard work, the mentorship that these coaches have poured into their students. So I ask that you find Klein High School not liable for negligence, and the plaintiff assumed the risk of the game.
Thank you, counsel. Bailey, can I please have a Do they have time for a vote, or you just wanna?
Yeah, she does. She has 30 minutes.
Did you wanna use it?
Yes, Your Honor. Members of the jury, the defense just spent even more time doing what I told you they were doing all day today. They were trying to say that a 14-year-old boy could have understood the risk of paralysis, while also trying to say that Coach Powell had no idea that could possibly happen. That can't be true, members of the jury. Nothing about the way that Marie ran this play was voluntary. Yes, we know that he and his mother signed a waiver. But that waiver was signed months before this play was put in place. Nothing about it was voluntary because Marie was forced into the position by Coach Powell. Head shoved lower to the ground. Threatened to be benched if he didn't do it the exact way he was instructed to do. The defense also wanted to talk about a lack of data, no injuries to spines at college and football and other levels, or no injuries to quarterbacks, but members of the jury, no data doesn't automatically make something safe. It means that we need to proceed with caution, not run head first through something like a battering ram. I want to take a moment and talk about foreseeability as well. Again, the defense is trying to tell you that nobody could have predicted that this would happen. But of course, it was foreseeable, members of the jury, because Reed could not see. He was looking down at the ground, unable to see in front of him what was going on, where the players were as he was being shoved from behind by 3 other people. When he did the play in the exact position that Coach Powell instructed him to be in, he was paralyzed. Find the defendant liable.
All right, thank you. Thank you for a very good performance. I'll turn it over to the judges and our jury box to give some feedback.
So before you into feedback, you can get your ballots in, and I'll make all clear from the top, and then you guys can start.
Oh, okay.
I'm getting an error code when I try to code it.